something very important. And this is one of the first times that we have seen people, especially like Trump and Biden, come together on an issue like this. I'm going to exit out of this. Okay, I'm going to share my PowerPoint again. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so hopefully through this work, we are going to develop a network of advocates. Primarily they're in Pennsylvania, but we do have a few friends, one in Tennessee who's joining us, one in Florida, because this is an issue that goes beyond the realms of Pennsylvania. It is a national issue as well. So participant roles, this is all of you guys. Learn and ask questions. I really like when you all ask questions because likely other people are thinking those questions and just not saying them. When possible, attend all trainings and meetings or make them up. So I'm hoping to record all of the trainings. And so if you are not able to attend, then you can join. Complete evaluations. This first welcome session does not have an eval, but in the future they will. Meet with your regional facilitator. Some of you have probably heard from that person, but if you have not, you will hear from them this week. And complete monthly assignments. And we'll talk about those a little bit further. Here are the dates for the trainings. And I'm just going to pull up the other screen. I think it shows it better. But all of the regional sessions are coming together, and we will just have statewide, nationwide trainings for the rest of the time.
At what time are those meetings occurring, Josie?
They will be 7 to 8 p.m. It's on the first Tuesday of every month, October through April. Can you guys see the schedule?
No.
No. Lovely. Okay. Let me change that right now then.
It could be because I'm on my phone.
That's a good guess. Let me read it to you now.
Okay.
Okay, do the rest of you see it? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So,
There
great.
we go. I got it.
Awesome. Okay, so 7 to 8 p.m. that's Eastern. September 22nd, which is next Tuesday, this is optional. We are going to be showing 0 Weeks, which is on Amazon Prime, but it's a hour-and-a-half film on family care and paid time off, basically. And you don't have to attend, but I think it will give everyone a little bit clearer understanding of what it means to everyone out there. October 6th, making change using your story, your voice in your story. So today and through October 6th, we are going to be working on making sure that you have a story, you all do, but being able to frame it to make change. November 3rd, communication, the power of your words on paper and pencil and beyond. December 1st, navigating relationships with change makers. So how do you start to get to know a legislator? How do you build those relationships? Or it could be somebody like a mayor or someone else. How do you navigate those? On January 5th, creating momentum and building a network. So you might have a great platform, you might have a Instagram or Facebook page. How do you start building those networks? February 2nd, a targeted approach to public speaking. So public speaking is hard, but when you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's a lot easier to pull it together. March 2nd, a multi-platform approach to support your cause. And so we'll be looking at all the social media. We'll be looking at newspapers, just the multifaceted approach. And then history of disability rights and your place in it. Chat. Sure is. You're absolutely right. Okay, so Molly reminded me that November 3rd is election day. By 7, what time do the polls close? 7 or 8? I'm not sure of that.
I think it's 8.
Okay, so please, Molly, thank you for reminding me that. I'm gonna send a note to everyone that I would really ask them to vote earlier to do the mail-in ballots. But you're absolutely right. That's election night. Maybe it'll be a good relief from watching the tallies come in. Okay, so what do you get out of all of this? If you complete the courses and the assignments through April, you will have basic skills to advocate for systemic change. You will become a part of a network of advocates. You will understand the legislative process. So it's not just like we write a bill, we send it to someone, it gets done. Like there are multiple steps that are complicated and not really talked about. You will develop a connection with legislators in your area and some that have like power per se that aren't necessarily from your area. You will receive a certificate of completion, and this will be signed by multiple organizations, so it has some worth. Having experience in writing op-eds, which are newspaper, creating social media posts, facilitating meetings with legislators, and more. And you will receive a $100 gift card for Amazon, or if there's a different site, if that is not accessible to you. So paid family leave. Before we jump to this, do you guys have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Are you able to send us the recordings of the sessions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. That's what I was sounding like. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was trying to get it recording. So yes, you will actually get the YouTube link for this immediately following. Any other questions? Okay, next slide. So when it comes to leading on leave, the United States needs to pick up the pace. The US is the only developed nation without some sort of paid family leave. And that might not be shocking to you guys, but it's, you think about countries in Europe, in some South American, some African, Asia, they all have some level of paid family leave. And we'll talk about what that means that's different from these others. So do you guys see the pictures with the individual paid sick days, parental leave? Do you see that? Yeah. Okay, so I want to differentiate these for you.
Yes.
So paid sick days, think about it, you get the flu, you, I don't know, like some short-term illness. You take it off when you're just not feeling good. It's meant for just a few days. And often, like if you're in a job, if you are given sick days, you have to earn them over time. They're not usually available to take care of someone else and doesn't cover disability needs. So if you're saying, yeah, well, I need to take care of myself and do something disability related, often that doesn't cover it. Then I'm pretty sure you guys all know what parental leave is, and sometimes it's maternal and not paternal. So sometimes available for moms and not dads, limited to just babies and sometimes new children who are adopted for birth, foster, or adoptive parents. And then there's this broader piece, the paid family and medical leave. And this sort of incorporates both of those and more. So paid family and medical leave supports self-care and caring for others. Paid for by the government, at least in what the bill that we're working on will, and more time is available, and I'll explain that more. So if you look at the screen, there are two columns. Who has heard of FMLA? I assume most of you have heard of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So FMLA, I think we get sort of this grandiose idea of, oh, it's Family Medical Leave Act. It does what this does, but it's not true. This FMLA is unpaid, number one. So yeah, you can take time off, but all it does is protect your job. It applies to fairly large businesses that have at least 50 employees. It's up to 12 weeks that you can have off, and it still can be used for those types of needs we talked about, for self, for parents, for children, some military circumstances. It's generally only for family that is married in or blood, but not extended family or anyone else. The difference with what we're talking about is it is paid. Hold on, I think my dogs are going to lose their minds. Hold on. Sorry, Amazon is here. So with the paid family leave, it is paid. Okay, it's on a sliding scale so that people who earn less make a greater percentage of their wage. So it's not fair to assume that somebody who is earning minimum wage can live off 50% of that income. But somebody who makes multiple $1,000s a month could probably live on half of it. So it's a sliding scale that supports lower earning individuals. Sometimes offers broader job protection, applies to businesses of any size. And the time varies up to 26 weeks. In Pennsylvania, in the bill that we are pushing, it's 20 weeks. That's what we were able to get supported. And then it's often a broader definition of family. Everyone needs paid sick days and paid leave. But right now we are leaving workers behind. So here's a little bit more about the Paid Family Care Act. So as you can see, there are other states who have already done this over the past decade, almost two in some areas. And so these have started the process and have a history that we have used here in Pennsylvania to develop our bill. When we wrote our bill, individuals went to Washington and they felt that their model was closest to what would work for our state. And so they met with their state departments and learned how it was done and developed this plan so that they could estimate how it would work, how much it would cost, and if it would change how workers took time off. So as I mentioned, here in Pennsylvania, from the work they did, they determined to provide up to 20 weeks off per calendar year. So let me go back and describe that a little bit. For an individual who is caring for themselves, maybe you had surgery, maybe you're dealing with cancer, you could take up to 20 weeks off and receive payment from the government, sort of like unemployment, hopefully a little faster. But then the second part of that is up to 12 weeks off to care for someone else. So that might be a loved one, that might be a partner. They do not have to be blood relatives, but somebody you would consider family. I have third cousins who I see as family. And as people with disabilities, we often have different family. We create our own families based on those who support us, who kind of get it. And so family means something broader. Supported by workers, not determined by the employer. So this is something that's available to all individuals, no matter if your boss likes you, no matter if your job provides this normally, this is something available to anyone working. and the benefits managed through the state. And so normally you would plan ahead and submit like, oh, I need off 2 weeks in October, and they would process it and approve it. However, we know that sometimes there's emergencies. And so what you would do is then file afterwards, and they would reimburse for that time. What's the difference between unemployment and paid leave? Unemployment is when you've lost your job, not that you've been fired, but when you've lost it. For example, during the pandemic, a lot of companies downsized or shut down. And for those people, unemployment was helpful and paid them, either equal to what they were receiving, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. The only similarity would be how it's run. And so it is run by submitting paperwork directly to the state, and the state processes it instead of going through your boss. So any questions? I know there's so much information. Any questions right now? Okay. I hear a sigh. So Family Care Act, so it has a history. This bill was introduced in the House. So in Pennsylvania, we have a House and Senate, just like federally. And the House bill was introduced by Representative Wendy Thomas from Montgomery Bucks County and Dan Miller from Allegheny County. Then the Senate bill was introduced by Senator Laughlin and Senator Marie Collette. The Senate bill had a hearing. So when a bill has a hearing, generally they will bring in experts on this issue. Some are for, you might have some opposed, and they will talk about it in front of the committee and sometimes the whole legislative body to hear the sides. And both bills need to be voted on to get out of committee. So what that means, all bills, all of them, have to go into a committee in the House and Senate. So for this one, it's labor and industry. The committee then has to vote for or against it. If they support it, then it goes to the floor, which that's either in the House or the Senate or both. Then the Senate or House has to vote on it to send it to go through another committee. Then it comes back. And so when we say get it out of committee, that means getting it to the larger body on the House or Senate floor. Here's the stats. 78% of Pennsylvania adults favor establishing this statewide Family Care Act, regardless of their gender, age, education, any of that. And 56% of employers who had their own businesses also supported it. So let me go back for 1 minute. Yeah, did someone have a question? Okay. So one question that came up in the beginning was, if all these people are supporting it, why isn't it not just done?
Hey Josie,
Yeah.
there is a chat question I
Hmm.
just saw that says, what's the difference between unemployment and paid leave?
I think we got that.
Okay,
Molly, if you want more info, let me know.
okay, just wanted to make sure I,
Thank you.
artic-
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so one thing I do want to mention again is, although there are overwhelming majority of people that want this, legislators are concerned because anytime that they're trying to get reelected, they are trying to make sure that they don't increase taxes, they don't upset people. And so especially for Republicans, they are trying to not shake the boat or rock it or whatever. And so they don't want to establish something new. When I say that there would be a tax, the tax would be a 0.5%. So it is extremely small, and it's only on people who are earning income. So it's not a property taxes, just an earned income tax. So it's literally 0.5%. Okay, this is who would be eligible, which of you could get this? Employees would receive paid leave benefits to care for themselves in the event of a serious health condition, or to care for a loved one, or a new child, or a move that's related directly to military service. And a self-employed individual could opt into it, so they could sign up and then provide that 0.5% tax and be a part of the program as well. So it doesn't matter if you work part-time, if you do shift work, if your schedule changes, everyone could be a part of this. The maximum leave duration for yourself is 20 weeks. And I also told you before, for yourself is 20, for someone else that you might be taking care of is 12. You do not have to take all of that time at once. So if you have, say, a surgery, you know that you're going to need 10 weeks off to take care of yourself, but you know you're going to have follow-up appointments. You could schedule, let the committee know, and they can approve that ahead of time. So you can split that time up. Payment will be based on a sliding scale based on your income, with people who earn less getting a higher percentage. Okay, so I think I covered this one. Okay. The
Hey,
impact.
Josie,
Yes,
I have a random question about that.
please.
So my question is, say you take, like, this Family Leave Act or whatever it's called, and you do that, and say like you get your 20 weeks, right? Whether you spread that out or whatever. First off, how long of a course of time is it that you can spread that out? But how long of a course of time that you can do it again? You know what I mean? Like, say you have like a mom that's sick, you take care of them, whatever, or whatever have you, and then she passes away, and then say a year or two later your dad gets sick and you have to do the same thing. So like, how long of a course of time is it between being able to use it?
Yep, good question. So it's all based on calendar year. So you get 20 weeks for yourself, or 12 if you're caring for someone else in a calendar year, and that number restarts every January 1st.
Now, oh my god, my cat's being annoying. So my next question then is, what happens, like, is there something that someone has to provide proof of said thing happening for them to take this? Or I'm thinking from a small business perspective, what if someone's just like, oh yeah, my dad's sick, but they're like taking, vacation or whatever for 20 weeks, but they like their dad's like, off, running marathons and stuff, like what is there like a preventative thing for people of abusing it, is what I'm asking.
Sure. So it's sort of, I know some of you might not like the sound of this, but it's sort of set up like disability. So an individual would need to file that they want the time off, and the doctor has to write like why they need time off and your name. So say grandma is sick, and Barb signs up to take care of her. Well, you can't also have her nephew and your brother and your dad you can't have multiple people taking the same time off to care for someone at the same time. Now, it could be different if, say, you get hurt or sick or something, you need time off, and someone that cares for you needs time off, then those could be considered separate and happen at the same time.
There was also a question that says, what if you have a child and then someone passes away several months later?
Yep, now hopefully you didn't take the full 20 weeks whenever you somebody has that child, because that 20 weeks can be split however you need it. So, hopefully you took 10 weeks and you have another 10 weeks to use further on in the year, however you need to. Now, let me also mention that it's not bereavement time. So say, it would work totally perfectly if you had a child and then your mom or somebody got sick and you had to take care of them. That works. But bereavement time, if someone passes, is not a part of it. Hopefully your job does pick it up.
Okay. I was wondering for the people who are, worried about people that quote unquote abuse the system and whatnot.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I do want to mention that mental health is a part of this. So you could, if you're having a serious situation, you could contact the labor and industry and say, I need time off. Your psychiatrist signs off on it, and you could take a mental health break, and your job, your boss does not have to know why you took that time off. And so they just know that you were receiving paid family medical leave. So they might not know that you're in the hospital or that maybe you had a gender transition surgery or something like that. Those all count.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
So, well, hypothetically, let's say I get sick and I take my, 20 weeks off, and
Yep.
then I have a family member that gets sick. Am I still entitled to the 12 weeks off?
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to check
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
Because they are different pools.
Okay.
But that's a really, really good question. It seems wrong if that wasn't possible, but then, 30 weeks is also long.
Yeah.
32.
I was just curious.
No, I'm going to message that right now because that is a really good question. And
Yeah,
hopefully
I
it doesn't
think
happen.
I think these what if questions are really important just
Yep.
because we are the what if population, if you will. Like everyone's like when they're like, oh, people shouldn't be on disability, blah, 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 blah. And then we're like, well, what about us? And then they're like, well, you're the exception. And I think that that's why these what if questions are so important, because it seems our population is often overlooked and people aren't thinking about us in those what if scenarios. And then when the what if happens, there's no answers, so
That's right. We were the people that never happens sort of thing. You're like, no, that doesn't happen. Well, yep, here we are. So
Yep.
yes, the what if population. That's right.
Yep.
I'm literally texting that question right now. Okay, so then the other stuff down the bottom, you will see what could that have meant for individuals if we had this during the beginning of the COVID crisis. People could have taken time off if they weren't feeling well. They could have cared for a loved one who had it. Personal care attendants could have had time off if they were ill. And the cool part that I didn't mention is that because it's funded by the government, the business or employer can use the money that they would have spent on paying for time off, take that money and use it to pay for someone else for those hours. So either temporary job position or to pay people to work a little bit more to make up the difference. So that could have been a game changer for a lot of personal care attendant agencies or restaurants or grocery stores. So at the federal level, this is sort of starting to happen, and this is the first time it's really been done. So progress is being made. Little bit of this was included in the Family Act and the HEROES Act. Now it's just talking about what the right bill is and what will do the most good. So that's where some of this discussion comes up and could be part of the the discussions within the next month or two between Biden and Trump. So before we jump to a break, do you guys have any more questions? I see something pop up. All right. What is Pennsylvania's perspective on COVID and paid time leave? My employer is willing to pay if we get COVID or we have to care for a person with COVID. It's employer by employer. You know, if you have sick time that's provided by your place of work, then yes, you can take it off. Taking off for someone who has it is a little trickier. They may or may not provide that. Anyone else have additional info about that? No? Okay, so we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we'll watch a couple short videos about time off and this bill in particular, and then we'll talk about sharing your stories. So that means,
You're doing a great job explaining it all, Josie.
oh, it's so complicated.
I know.
Well,
That's why I'm like, you're doing such a good job
Thank
breaking this
you.
shit down.
Thank you. It's hard, and someday, if I explain it enough, I will understand it. Someday. So
Well, it sounds like you have a pretty good handle on it. So.
I appreciate that. Okay, guys. Well, I'll see you in 10 minutes. So 6 after.
I'll just be chilling here.
Yeah, me too. Just don't have to talk.
My cat is eating his special food. Here, I wonder if I can show him eating. Look how cute.
Oh, is that the one that has some health problems?
Yeah, him and his brother both, but he's the one who almost died at the beginning of quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
And that little food that, you know, he had a severe bladder blockage. Like those stones, there was a lot of them. So he was miserable for a bit and just put on a good face. And normally cats will like have accidents, you know, when they are having bladder issues, but he never did. He still went to
Wow.
the litter box even in pain. So
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I was, you know, not seeing that he was in pain.
Yeah, right. Some animals are tough enough you don't know.
And I honestly, I think I was able to pick up on him and his brother before having issues just because of my training.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of was like, okay, there's something off here. And my dad's like, no, they're fine. I'm like, no, something's off. Like no. And then sadly that's both of them had something wrong. So these animals, I tell you what.
About another minute, guys. Ladies, guys.
I say guys too.
I do it, and I don't mean it to be biased at
Yeah,
all.
I don't either, but I need to be more aware of it. And
I say it all the time, and this is where it gets crappy. Is if you said ladies and there was a guy in the room, they'd be like, "What?" Whereas we respond to guys. Really interesting.
yeah, or like if you are around people that present male and
Yeah.
one of them identifies as they them,
Yes, that's hard.
and you say guys, I'm like, oh, whoops, sorry.
Yes, I screw that up all
Yeah,
the
don't
time.
poor Jess.
I did the same
Don't poor
thing,
Jess.
Jess.
Oh,
I did
say
the
guys
same
and
thing.
gals.
guys and gals pretty safe, but
Yeah,
I
like-
say y'all.
y'all
I
safe.
say y'all sometimes.
Yeah,
I say
you do.
y'all.
Yeah, Molly said her too. Y'all's pretty safe, even though it sounds southern, which for you, Molly, works. For us,
It kind of works because for me at least, because I'm close to the Mason-Dixon line, and I'm in the
Sorta.
southern end of Pennsylvania, so they're kind of, everyone's like, yeah. And I've been always saying it. Like my mom used to scream at me when I'd say yins. She's like, that's
Yeah.
not a word. And then I would say y'all, and she was like, well, that's at least in the dictionary.
yeah, it's true.
My mom yells at my dad for saying yuns. She's like, yuns is not a
Yep.
word. And I'm like,
Yep.
whatever. And
My-
I
my-
like where I live, it's kind of like redneck village, kind of some of the areas, and like
Same here.
they say yuns, they say y'all, they say other stuff, and
Yep.
like whatever.
It's true.
All y'all.
Oh, y'all. I do that one. Yeah. Okay, folks. There we go. I'll call you folks. I'm gonna show a couple of videos about two of our legislative champions talking about the bill itself and why they support it. And the only reason I'm doing this is I think it gives a nice perspective of what it means to support from a legislative perspective, see how they talk about it. So I think it usually is just like 4 minutes or something, so it won't be long. This first one is Maria Collette, and she is one of the prime sponsors for the bill.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Senator Hughes, and thank you, Governor Wolf, for including paid sick leave as one of your legislative priorities for the fall. As a prime sponsor of Senate Bill 580, which is the Family Care Act, I am painfully aware that even before the COVID crisis, and as you've heard Governor Wolf and my colleague Senator Hughes say, more than 80% of hardworking Pennsylvanians had no form of paid medical leave to care for themselves or a loved one without fear of losing their jobs. And our small businesses, the backbone of our economy, were struggling to retain good employees. Implementing paid family medical leave to help working families and small businesses makes common sense. We held a robust and productive hearing on this bill back in January. We expected to spend the next several months negotiating the bill language and working to persuade our more reluctant colleagues of the bill's viability and necessity. None of us could have predicted what lay ahead. If the extreme hardships faced by Pennsylvania's families and small businesses over the past 6 months haven't persuaded my colleagues of the value of paid family medical leave, I don't know what will. We've spent these months putting Band-Aids on bullet holes to help families and small businesses try to survive. But now, bigger, systemic changes are required to lift Pennsylvania up and help its people and businesses recover. With the governor's backing, I'm optimistic that our legislature can come together in support of a program like the Family Care Act, which already has bipartisan and bicameral support to do just that. Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce.
Okay, and one more. So Marie Collette, she's a very cool person. She was a nurse out in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, and just well-spoken Bucks County, really good person. Now you're gonna hear this woman is named Pam Iovino, and she is from Allegheny County. She's an ex-Marine, and she's hardcore, let me tell you. So hold on.
I am very pleased to be here this morning with some of my fellow colleagues from the General Assembly. I'd like to thank Dave Hicktier for hosting us here at Culture this morning. And thank you to Governor Wolf for your leadership and for inviting me to join you here today. The pandemic has highlighted the ways in which our safety nets were not and currently are not sufficient for providing the security and the flexibility that working families and businesses need in a modern economy. Perhaps no issue greater embodies that than paid sick leave. No employee should have to choose between taking care of a sick family member and keeping their job. And no employer should have to choose between the health of their business and being loyal to their workers. That was true before the pandemic hit. But now, as we work to build a lasting and fair recovery for Pennsylvania, paid family and sick leave has become an absolute necessity for the health of our working families and our economy as a whole. As you've heard, there is broad bipartisan agreement that our Commonwealth needs a more stable and predictable way of supporting productivity at work while also allowing workers to care for themselves and their loved ones. 79% of Pennsylvanians support providing paid family and medical leave to all working families. 79%. There are not many policies that enjoy such broad support. Our friends and partners in labor, like SEIU, which represents healthcare workers and many other frontline workers, they've been long pushing for these protections. And these essential protections are smart for both the employee and for the business. In the long run, businesses understand the financial implications of keeping someone on the books instead of dealing with the cost of high turnover. But we understand this is not just about the bottom line and spreadsheets. It's about real human stories, about people like Kathleen, a constituent of mine who lives with and cares for her 92-year-old mother. Kathleen worked a full-time job, but in order to avoid bringing the virus home and infecting her high-risk elderly mother, she decided back in May to take unpaid leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act. She was ineligible for paid leave under the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act because her company employs over 500 people. And Kathleen did not qualify for unemployment compensation because her company was classified as essential. Our system in its current structure let Kathleen fall through the cracks, and her story is all too common. Across Pennsylvania, parents with sick children, those with elderly relatives, they are struggling to find a way to provide their loved ones with compassionate care while also providing them with a roof over their heads and food on the table. That's a choice that no Pennsylvanian should have to make. And they don't have to. As my colleagues have pointed out, there is bipartisan and bicameral legislation in the General Assembly right now that I'm proud to co-sponsor, the Family Care Act. It would provide a new level of economic security for working families without adding a new burden to small businesses. We can do this. We can rise to the challenge and together build a more fair and sustainable economy for us and for our children. I am committed to that. I look forward to working with my colleagues across the aisle and across the Capitol to get a bill to the governor's desk as soon as possible. Again, thank you to Governor Wolf for inviting me to be part of this today, and I'll invite.
Okay, so let me do a new share here. So folks, I just wanted to show you that because I think it gives a nice perspective on how to speak about a bill. And obviously this was the legislators, but if you listened to Senator Iovino, she directly mentioned one of her constituents or individuals that lives in her district by name, knowing her story and why this matters. And we hope that you all are is that person that maybe a legislator references, because your story in this situation, in all situations, is really important. And there's no reason that we shouldn't be hearing from you guys as well. I saw a chat. Oh, yeah. Yes, that's correct, Barb. That spelling is right. Okay. So can you guys still see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to jump on to telling your story, back to where this all begins. All of these laws, good and bad, started with a person, and someone told their story that made a difference. Can any of you think of somebody whose story was told that you feel to change your community, the world, the country, maybe just you? And I'm asking this as a question. Can you think of an individual whose story changed someone else?
I can't remember their name, but the person who did the ice bucket challenge for
Mm.
ALS.
Yes, that is one. That's a good one. Any more?
I remember listening to Oprah Winfrey's story of like everything she went through and
Yeah.
endured as a child. What her grandmother went through, what her mother went through, what she also went through, and how she as a child, she finally changed it. Even though she went through the same thing as an adult, she finally was the one that changed the dynamic of it. So yeah, that was really impactful. And
Yeah.
it was before she became this, famous person.
That's a good one. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking Oprah, but yeah. I mean, and then the list goes on and on, whether you're thinking about MLK, whether you're thinking about Moses in the Bible. I mean, people who shared their stories framed our world. So here's some other reasons sharing your story is important. Help you become more confident and independent. So part of it's about being like an advocate. Your perspective is unique and can bring new ideas just by being you. You present a population whose voice may not be at the table. So as women or men, as people with disabilities or parents, those stories are not always at the table. Stories can help us identify with something or someone to help make that information stick in our brains. So as I was listing those numbers of percentages, you may or may not remember that, but if we were to share our story, you are more likely as a person to remember that. Stories are often more memorable and motivational if the audience can relate. So, maybe they relate to you because you're a person with a disability or family member, maybe because of your love for animals, maybe because of your faith. I mean, sometimes we connect to very different parts of an individual because that we are so dynamic as individuals that there's so many parts to us. So it's important to be able to be relatable. You also remember when there are strong emotions, and sometimes that's laughter, sometimes that's tears, but when there are emotions, you feel it. You remember it because it's not just your memory, but you felt it when it was said. When the speech is laid out clearly, so you understand, who this person is that's speaking, what they're trying to convey, and how it ties to the message. There's an understanding of how the story ties to the message. So for some of us, we've held back. We haven't told our story. And for a long, long time, I did that as well. For me, I would say most of this was true. So on here it says fear of judgment, fear of public speaking, lack of opportunity, or feeling that your story just doesn't matter. When you're starting to think about your story, it's important to kind of have steps picking your story. So sure, I'm Josie Badger, and I could tell you a million stories, but what's important to this? You might want to start outlining it or writing down key facts or info that you want to list. You might want to write it out, practice, present, evaluate. And this is the same whether you're writing or saying it, because it's still about presenting it, getting feedback, and changing. Sometimes, even if it's fantastic, if you're presenting it to a different audience, it might need to be changed a little bit. So what's your statement? Identify concerns for you or your family, and use the goal to help identify the concerns. So thinking about family care Act, for me, I work a lot, but I don't have backup income, and I have my own business, and I do not have enough money in my business to pay myself. And so if my disability would progress, if I would need surgery, then I would lose my business. I could lose my home. So that's one area that I could talk about. Of these concerns, identify issues that may be of concern to others. So, could other people connect with the concern of losing their job, losing the income that their family relies on? Choose an issue that you want to work on. In this situation, during this year, we'll be working specifically on the Family Care Act. The subject is any way you want to look at subject area. Most of what we'll be talking about in this would rely on the health, the employment, maybe some education. There are different styles of stories. Some are to motivate, some are to bring awareness or educate, and then there are campaign stories. All of these are part of this larger push to change a bill. So what's your swag? Do you want to be laid back, serious, funny? I find it helpful to kind of have a little bit of all of that. Sometimes when we go to speak to people without disabilities or legislators, they kind of feel uncomfortable. And so sometimes opening up with humor can really let them soften up to hear what you have to say. What's the significance? What makes whatever you're talking about relatable and important? So just as we talked about, why is it important to me, but then why should a legislator pass it? It's not just for me, but there are so many other people. It's significant for a lot of people. Prep time. I'm not going to go into detail about this. If you want to read through it, you'll have the slides. So why is telling your story important for systemic change? And this is something I want to hear a few pieces of feedback from. Why is sharing your story important to make broad systemic changes?
I think because people resonate with your story, and if they don't see your face, if they don't hear your story, they can hide behind statistics.
That's right.
And you don't humanize it then.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's a really good answer. And how many times have we, and I will say I, thought I knew the world, thought I knew the issues, and then I hear someone else, it's like, holy cow, I've never had to deal with that or face that, and it changes your whole perspective. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think like you might if you talk about yourself and what you've gone through and what you deal with, maybe like that's going to open their eyes. Or, even if you talk about it and ask them like certain things, if you go to certain things, they're going to see you going through that. And then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I guess it's not a piece of cake to deal with this. And maybe we do need change. Because somewhere you talk to somebody is going to be like, oh, wow, I guess it's not as easy. And they're going to change their mindset about it, because everyone has their own opinions and views. And they think that some people think they know everything. And then you talk about it and then they realize they don't.
That's right. That's right.
Wanted to be a
Okay.
little-
Oh, sorry, I speak.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to chime in on what she
Please.
just said to kind of be a living witness.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we have to speak up for those who can't speak, and we have the ability to communicate our needs, our wants, our life to others. And we know that there are people around us who are living maybe in a similar situation but do not have this opportunity. And so it's so important to stand in that gap. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be asking you to start thinking about your story, to start outlining it. And some of the attachments are ways to start thinking about your story. I am not requiring you to fill out any of the handouts. They might help you. And so that's why they're attached. So starting with my name is, where I'm from, if you work, where you work, what type of work it is, or it could be something else. I'm an advocate, I'm a person with a disability, any of that. Your life situation where the Family Care Act would have been helpful. So my guess, how I would suggest you lay it out is paragraph 1 is sort of like 1, 2, 3 on this list, if you can see it. So my name is, like a little basic info about yourself. Then I would suggest that the second paragraph would kind of go 4 and 5. If you've ever needed time off, if you might need time off, or if you have someone in your life that has needed to take time off for you. And then I would probably wrap up in the end with that whole idea that standing in the gap piece of trying to represent why this is significant and important for more people other than you. You do not have to lay it that way. That was just how I would think about it. Here's another example. Starting with the heart, connect with emotions. Explain what you and other working people need, or people with disabilities, or parents. Tell how and why you got involved in this movement. So don't say because Barb told you to or something. Like, it has to be a little more than that. But I want you guys to really start thinking about you, about your story, what makes you special, and what is it about your story that can be compelling and connect to other people. So what's next? Review the handouts and think about your story. And I'm going to ask you to start jotting down some stuff over the next couple of weeks. Sign up for the Family Care Act Coalition. So if you get a chance, email Charlie, who is our Family Care Act Coalition lead. He leads a call every month that kind of gives updates on where we are on the bill in the state. And that email address, just email them, say, hey, I'm part of Trail, I'd like to join this. Reach out to your regional coordinator. Actually, they'll probably reach out to you. And I'm hoping that they will start to connect with you regularly in October to help you with these steps, we'll call it. So the first step is pulling your story together. Then it's like framing your story to send in a letter. So I'm hoping they, starting in October, will have kind of a network of support to help you in each step of the process. There is a release form in the email that I sent you, and I will resend you. Please send that we are not going to sell your info. This is just when, with your permission, when you start to write blurbs about yourself, about the Family Care Act, we're going to, of course, ask you first, but we are going to make them into snippets for Facebook posts, social media, all of that. Join us on October 6th for the first monthly training, and the date was there. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be the option to join us this Tuesday for 0 weeks. It's the same link that we used today, but I will resend that reminder to you today or tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this, and what questions do you all have?
What time is the movie this coming Tuesday?
7 to 8:20
Okay.
Eastern. What else, folks? Stephanie, I see you holding your head. What are your thoughts, friend? You're muted. There you are.
I'm just wondering if our coordinator doesn't reach out to us. Is there a way that we can reach out to them?
Yeah, let me see. I think yours is Bob. Let me double check that.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe Bob. Where are you, Stephanie? There you are. Yeah, you're Lyft. So
State College.
what? Yeah, so you're under the Lyft group, which is Bob Mecca, and so he should reach out to you this week. If you don't hear from him, let me know, because maybe there was a problem or he didn't get your email.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions?
Did you say that the movie night is on Amazon Prime or something? What'd you
Well,
say
the
about it?
movie, so we're gonna watch it as a group if you decide to join us on Zoom,
Okay.
but it
Mhm.
is, the movie itself is available on Amazon Prime. Either if you want to watch it or you don't want to join us, or whatever, it is on there.
I was gonna say I don't have Amazon Prime.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I'm gonna show it through my account, but it is on there.
Sounds good.
So just to clarify, are the regional coordinators are going to reach out to us?
That's the
Or do
plan,
we-
Jess. That's the plan.
Okay.
Hopefully. And because you guys had not been to a welcome event, I had not pushed them to reach out to you. So now that you have been, then I will say, hey, here's your new batch. Okay. But we will be, so from starting on Tuesday, we are not going to be separated. We will be one large group. But when you're working on your projects, when you're doing anything like that, you'll be probably working primarily with your region. So everything on Tuesday night we do as a larger group, but we'll probably split into breakouts so that you're able to work in smaller groups when you're figuring out what to do. Are you reading a book?
No, I'm trying to organize some stuff here.
Okay. And do you have any questions, Barb?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you know what we
so-
talked about?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do.
Okay.
But so to clarify it, everyone has to kind of show up, and if there's going to be assignments and whatnot, so if you can't show up, you're going to send it after, and then do they have to complete these assignments? Like, how are you holding people accountable to continue?
Yeah, that's good. So if you want to receive the certificate and the gift card, I will ask you to complete the assignment. Your regional coordinators will help you get it done. If you're struggling, I'm here to help you. And we're not saying, oh, like, okay, now go get the bill passed. that's not an assignment. The assignment would be, okay, now write a paragraph about your story, or now we're going to work together to write a letter. Or, it's going to be small chunks because it can be really overwhelming if you do it all at once. So, but
Okay,
we're
I
not
was just
throwing you
wa-
to the wind.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that I know a couple of people on here are super new to that I
Yeah.
referred to the advocacy realm, and I want to make sure that there's like little benchmarks that they can reach so they know that
Yep.
they are doing what they need to and not feeling like they're like not doing enough or doing too much or whatever.
And I will tell you, there have been people who probably haven't had a second thought about the story, and some people who have been working hard already on it. And so, you can fall anywhere on that line. But I would recommend, especially if you are newer to this stuff, to start just piecing it out. It's easier.
Okay. And other things I'll talk to you afterwards.
Any other questions? Okay. Are you guys feeling okay? Okay. We won't throw you under the bus. So, okay. Well, I really appreciate all of you joining. I think that, this is actually the most info that you'll receive on the bill itself. A lot more of it will be like how to tell your story, how to connect with legislators, and then the homework will be more focused on the bill itself. That does not mean we won't talk about it or answer questions, but this is probably the most overwhelming part of the information. So hang in there. We gotcha. Okay, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey
Bye.
Josie, is it
Bye.
okay if I like call you on the phone when we hang up?
Sure.
Okay.